Good day, good morning, good evening. My name is Graham Gordon Thomas and I am the rational environmentalist. We have to ask ourselves what is the most important thing there is in life before we really can identify what the meaning of environmental is. What is an environment? What is the most important environment? The most important environment is the one in your heart and in your mind. If these aren't free of emotional angst, and you're free to learn whatever you like, research and question everything, and you live in a reasonably loving house with food on the table, well, that's about as good as life can get. You can't get much better than that. You can learn to have music or learn to paint or whatever. The material wealth that you have, that's by the by, because even the richest people have children who are genetically deformed and what have you, and therefore their environment might look better than yours, because they're wealthier, but they may have children that are causing them a lot of heartache. And so it's best not to judge people by their wealth or by anything. Make no judgments, because the environment is something that people have got. The word's been abused and it's been used to connotate fears about the destruction of the planet by various means, by industrial processes and things like that. Well, the thing about that is that we know human is intelligent enough that when they see they are learning about degrading the planet, they will do something about it. Like in China, they're doing something. They are not reducing the amount of coal we use or the amount of CO2 they use. That anyone who believes that, who really should study. You a little bit. Don't believe anything. Go and do your own research, and you'll find that all the Chinese are doing is removing the old dirty type of furnaces, what produce electricity steam generators. That's what they are, coal-fired steam electricity generators. That's what they are, and they're removing the old dirty and efficient ones and replacing them with clean ones. But although they emit CO2, that will be maybe the only thing that gets emitted, and CO2 and a bit of steam, and CO2 is a colourless gas which then feeds into the plant life and doesn't do anything else. It's not going to gas people. You're not going to gas anyone with CO2. If you lock people in a room and fill it up with CO2, yes, they would pass out. But generally in the environment, people imagine that you hear tweets on the ABC and not going to be able to breathe for CO2. Well, no, that's not going to happen. The only time that can happen if you're in an enclosed environment and your room gets filled up with CO2, then you won't be able to breathe. But otherwise, this is a point why it's best to do your own research. Then that will improve your own internal environment, your heart and mind. Humanity produces only about 4.5% of the whole CO2 produced within the context of the living globe or the living earth. The earth is a living sphere of a fantastic arrangement of biological life which humans are part of, or one of. Now, that in Australia is about all told, the whole percentage is about 0.075%. So it's such a minuscule amount of CO2 in the context of the whole globe. Why people here are up in arms and carrying on and going broke about it? Government and people are conspiring to send society broke for saying they're going to do something about the climate. But it's almost as if Australia is going alone against an invisible demon it doesn't understand. And that's what climate change, that's what the climate people who push the idea that it's an emergency when it's not an emergency. For it can't be an emergency because you don't know, you can't predict it. But they've put this idea into all these young people's heads, and unfortunately the young people are now afraid to do the research required that would inform them, become self-informed. But this is the important part. In a democracy, the most important part is not to support any party. If no person in society, other than the politicians themselves, which are private corporations, by the way, political party, ALP, Greens, Liberals, are private corporations registered in Washington DC. So, you're voting for a private corporation. Well, really, self-interest is their main thing. They want the votes because they can then have most influence for their own benefit. They're not really to benefit society anymore. Greens certainly aren't, regardless of what they say. The Greens are a sort of international organisation what is against democracy. You see, the thing is, democracy is works by individuals not believing anything, finding out their own research, becoming certain about their knowledge, and then making intellectual choices, if you like, using wisdom, instinct, wisdom, intuition, to and the creative process to work out which politicians are telling the truth or nearest the truth. Very difficult for a politician to tell exactly the truth, but because what is that? But so anyone who says, "Oh, you have to believe me or believe this," or you attack someone for speaking freely, the point is that is anyone who demands another person shouldn't be able to speak will in the end be themselves unable to speak, because once you stop one person speaking freely, you are then putting restrictions on all people. Eventually that comes around. Every revolution starts with socialist sort of revolution starts with people. It happened in France, it happened in Russia, China, etc., with people saying, "Oh, you can't say this, you can't say that." In the end, the same people who say you can't say this, can't say that, find it comes back on them. They find they can't say what they want. It's a ploy by leaders to get people who say you shouldn't say this or they shouldn't say that or whatever. It's a ploy by leaders to condition those people to limit what they say. And in other words, democracy, or the quality of it, is being diminished. The democratic environment is being diminished and eroded to enrich the elite who control the Greens, the Liberals, and the ALP. Elite control these. I'm not going to go into that just yet. But this is just a little bit of a ramble to fill you on free speech. When people say attack Pauline Hanson, for instance, and she's a very brave woman, when she said, for instance, autistic children in class are, they should have their own class. Yes, you have to agree with her, because say there's 30 people in a class, 30 children, and one of them is disrupting the whole class. All the rest of those children, education or time at school is wasted. So is their parents, all the effort their parents have put in to bring them up, to pay for a house, to make sure their kids have a good life, is wasted because one child is wrecking the whole class. Now it shows these children need special care, they need a special class, and one's what can, and they should occasionally come into classes, but not full time. But it just shows you that legislation, if they're going to spend millions or billions on Gonski reports on that and apply that to education, but put in classes these erosive elements that then disrupt the whole class, they're going to waste billions of dollars and end up with people who don't get an education because the teacher hasn't got the time to teach them. And she must be extremely frustrating to have one disruptive child in class. It is as a teacher. I spent a year teaching in China, and having people disrupt the class is a damn nuisance. And there should be rules about class behaviour, that's for sure. But it's wrong for those Greens and those people who are criticising Paul and Hanson for saying freely a very honest and open statement, which is a statement of fact. It's based on fact. People are sending their kids to school, they're not learning anything all day. It means when they go to get a job in the future, they will be unemployable because of one person in the class is disruptive of the class. That's not fair. That's not treating, that's not equality. That's dumbing everyone down. I mean, that's just not right. It's not, doesn't treat the bright kids equally, does it? And yet, the people like on the Greens, Di Natalia, whatever his name is, and all the media freaks and everyone else say, oh, they all raved about Paul and Hanson because they haven't got the guts themselves to speak freely about something that ought to be said. Some things are not all comfortable. You can't just say comfortable things all the time to make you feel comfortable, because that's like, we're not babies. It's like treating everyone as a baby or infantile. Or you can only say things that make me feel comfortable, otherwise I'll get upset. It's infantile, it's juvenile, and that adults in Parliament are acting like children, attacking Paul and Hanson for being honest and saying something that's much needed. And it proves this, that the money allocated to the Gong scheme will be better used in a more practical way, so that these children with special needs should get special needs, special care. There's no doubt about that. But the children who are really, really bright, they also should get special needs, and they should get special classes so they can accelerate. People who are good at music should go and do music, be good at it. People who are good at art, go and do art, yes. People who are good at maths, yes, you do maths. Because that's how they benefit, and the whole of society is enriched. And if we go into a process where less and less employment is because of robots, people need to be as informed, have as much knowledge as possible, and be able to be as creative as they can, so when they're not working, they won't be bored, they'll find something to do. Right? And this is the important thing of education, and why the Gonski is wrong, the application of it is wrong. It should be more stratified and looked at, and it should be about children with their special abilities. If you've got good at music or maths or whatever, writing, art, those children should be encouraged, and there should be an accelerated program for those people, rather than just aim at the less advantaged children who go in class and basically disrupt the whole class and hold back the whole class, and therefore waste the money putting into education. This is just simple truth anyone can face. If you have a kid, all those people who are knocking Hanson, maybe they don't really care for children at all. It's just pretending to care for the autistic kid. If they really cared for the autistic kid, they'd have a way they can go to their own school and once a week or whatever, until they learn to behave in the class, slowly condition them to being in that class. Make it a prize for behaviour, make it a reward for behaviour. Oh, you've behaved this week, you go into that class. That's how humans evolve. And right now the left and all these parties and even the right, they don't understand how humans evolve. From when you're born to when you get older, one day you die and pass through. But it's an evolutionary trend right through your life. It's a long learning curve. And when you tell people that you can't question, you can't know, don't teach them history, don't teach them science, and then tell them basically lies about climate and about everything, then you're not doing the people a favour, and you're wasting your money on education, and you're wasting all those good kids' time and all those parents' time by sending kids to school. So that's the most thing. And then by having educated people, then you have a better quality of democracy. The most important thing of democracy is don't support any party. I don't support any party. If someone says a good thing, I praise it. If it says something that I think is rubbish, I say so. But I do not ever take sides. I refuse to take sides in democracy, because that would mean I'd be failing my duty as a democratic person. Be informed, ask questions, don't believe anyone. That is your role within a democracy, and do not tell anyone they can't say this or can't say that, because that will come back. And in the end, they, authorities who are teaching you this lie, will then have you restricted. Or maybe Muslims will say, well, you know, you're not allowed to say this or not allowed to say that, right? So that will, what goes around comes around. So very careful what you wish for, that people shouldn't speak about this, that or the other. In the end, that will apply to you. That is historically correct, and that's why they don't want you to learn history, they don't want you to learn geography, they don't want to learn much at all. And that's why they're putting disrupted children in these classes. Remember, the most important environment is in your head, and in your heart, in your home, if you're a loving family, and then you're at peace. That's all you need. You don't need much else. Be creative, paint, play music, enjoy the space, don't do harm to anyone. Well, it's not, life's not that difficult, but so don't make it difficult for others, and then in the end life will not be difficult for you. That's simply the cycle of life, and another way of looking at environmentalism, and I am irrational environmentalism. Thank you.